Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. Thanks very much for watching. So I want to talk about the Henry Nowak killing. So I think you all know the story here. He was an 18-year-old teenager and he was fatally stabbed. Now I'm not going to go into the everything, but what I want to say is that I've just watched the body cam footage that's been released, and I think, like any other decent human beings, like it's actually shocking. There's no denying now that in Britain that we absolutely have two-tier policing. It's blatant. It's on display. But the question is, I mean, what do we do about this? Do you know what I mean? I don't see, like, I mean, like even like see like that. I talked about that Manchester airport incident and everything, and like how long it took them to like bring charges against those boys, and like let's get back to the Henry Nowak thing. So he was accused of racism, saying a racist word to some Sikh people, and so the police lost their shit, man, and like I think I'm not sure how many of them there were in total. I think there was at least three of them in that footage that I could make out anyway. And because he supposedly, right, we know now he didn't say this, right, but supposedly he said a naughty word to these people. That was enough for the, like, like the armed response unit essentially to turn up and, you know what I mean, handcuff the guy and everything. And it was quite clear from what I could make out that this boy was obviously in a severe state of incapacitation and distress, and this is how he was treated. So he was accused of saying a naughty word. So, like, if I was a police officer, why, like, if I went out to something like that, I'd be trying to establish facts. First of all, the guy was on the ground. Why would you handcuff somebody like that on the ground that was obviously incapacitated? Surely you'd be trying to like turn them round and try and speak to them and try and find out what's went on. And the boys told you at least, I think it's at least three times. He said, "Oh, I've been stabbed. I've been stabbed." And then one of the fucking cunt police officers is like, "No, I don't think you have, mate." What? This is just. I don't even know what to make of this anymore. Like, no wonder like people have lost faith in the police. Do you know what I mean? It's just a case of, so it's, you could be accused of calling someone a name basically, and they'll send 4 or 5 police officers after you, and you're incapacitated on the ground. Something's clearly wrong, but yet they'll treat you as the, well, that's the worst thing you could do. It's the worst crime imaginable to call somebody the N word, or a racial slur, a vocal cord violation. Do you know what I mean? Like, on a, get a fucking grip, man. Do you know what I mean? Get a grip. I don't know what to make of this anymore, but I mean, I am not a violent person. I don't condone violence. I don't condone don't condone law breaking. But now I have zero sympathy for people in certain situations that attack the police. I if they've been mistreated and they end up then attacking the police or whatever, the police are getting zero sympathy from me now, and I'm finding it very, very hard to have any sort of sympathy for the police now, because if you follow a channel called Crime Bodge, he's documented some real sort of severe violent cases of like when the police have just lost it for no reason whatsoever, and a suspect that's not even been violent or displayed any violence and is maybe just given a bit of back chat, and the police have set about them and seriously injured them, and nothing ends up happening, and they end up, the police get promoted and all that. It's this culture of the police just being able to like just administer violence for no justified reason and all that. There needs to be and in that case of that Henry Nowak there, where he was incapacitated and clearly injured on the ground, and yet he was handcuffed for supposedly saying a racial slur. What the actual fuck, man, was wrong with these police officers? What the fuck? And it's like, what can we do about it? The real question is, what can we do about it? And will these police officers actually be held to account for their... It's negligence, man. It is negligence. We've already got the conviction of the Sikh guy that stabbed him, right? But these police officers, they were absolutely at the very bare minimum negligent. Like, it's I think it's like it's they it was clear to anybody watching that footage that that guy was incapacitated and lying on the ground and wasn't able to function properly. So the question is, I mean, what do we do about this? And like, this brings me to other, like there's a protest or something that I seen. I think it was London, right? And there was like a whole bunch of police officers like grabbed this a grandmother, a granny. She was probably in her 70s, maybe. Do you know what I mean? And like there's like four police officers grabbed her and they're dragging her along the ground, and it's like, come on, man, come on. How can you treat an 80-year-old or a 70-year-old woman that's like, how can you treat somebody like that? What the fuck is wrong with the police these days? What is wrong with them? There was people, bystanders going, oh, come on, lift her up, for God's sake. She's an old woman, you can't do that to her. Like, it's in cases like that if somebody had maybe, like, hit one of the police or tried to stop them from doing that to her, they would have my sympathy, even though, like, supposedly you're never supposed to hit a police officer. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying that you should. You absolutely shouldn't. Do you know what I mean? But there actually has been a case where I can't remember the exact details. Daniel Shane Smith covered it in his channel, where a guy successfully argued self-defence against the police because they went and, like, they were, I think his mum or something tried to move a car that he was supposedly driving, and the police were questioning him, and his mum went to the car and the suspect heard screams and he thought his mum was getting hurt, and I think he went and bashed the policeman, and I think he successfully argued that he was just protecting his mum. So what's to say you couldn't argue that you were protecting an 80-year-old vulnerable woman from being dragged across the ground by four police officers when this woman's clearly getting dragged and all that, and she shouldn't be getting dragged, they should lift her up, do you know what I mean? Should drag her across the ground. So, I mean, there is such a thing as self-defence of another. Now, I am not saying that you should attack the police, absolutely you shouldn't, but like, if the police are going to go bush, right, and they're going to use like extreme violence and things like that, then I think if you did defend yourself, there's probably a decent chance that if the force you used was reasonable compared to if you genuinely believed, right, that you were like going to get seriously hurt, and that the force that they were using was just like it was amounted to criminal force for, like, it's, I don't know, man, like that. I'm just saying, I am not saying to use self-defence. I don't think you should. I think the best course of action is, right, if you are encountering the police and they're going to try and arrest you or something, I think you should just submit and then deal with any like unlawful violence later by trying to sue them. Do you know what I mean? Because you're just going to get seriously injured. But I think in certain cases when there's obviously like a complete, when the police have gone bush and lost it and they're just using unlawful force and things like that, I think the whole self-defence argument, like either for yourself or in defence of another, is a valid thing that might stand up depending on what the police have actually done in terms of force, do you know what I mean? But I'm no legal expert and don't take this as legal advice, but the police have lost the plot in this country. I would like to know what you think. Thanks for watching.